Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the full moon in Gemini, which takes place on the 23rd of November at 5:39 AM Universal Time. And I'll be outlining some of the key aspects taking place during this time, along with the themes of the full moon highlights. Before I do that though, I just want to clarify that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It really gives us an understanding of what's going on around us. It helps us to understand what the collective energy is doing and what lessons are there for us to be learning at this time. It's up to each and every one of us to take responsibility for our own lives and take the necessary actions aligned with the lessons that the astrology is highlighting for us to actually grow from it. Because if we don't participate, we don't learn from the astrology and we don't grow. So it's up to each and every one of us to make the most of it at the end of the day. Now with the full moon in Gemini, we're looking at this obviously involves the Sun in Sagittarius opposite the Moon in Gemini. So it's a time of illumination here, and the Gemini-Sagittarius axis deals with the mind. So Sagittarius, which the Sun is in, deals with the higher mind, if you like, so the intuitive side, the right brain, and this deals with looking at the big picture, looking at the broad strokes of life, and the kind of the grand details or the big picture that unites all the different threads together. And Gemini deals with the lower mind, if you like. It deals with the logic of rational mind, of making decisions, and it deals with information gathering, whilst Sagittarius is about synthesizing information into a belief system or worldview. Now with the Sun in Sagittarius, this is the focus of the month, but we need to be very mindful here that in exploring our belief systems, that we don't become too set in our ways. We don't focus so much on the answers, we don't obsess too much on the answers, because the thing is, answers lead nowhere at the end of the day. It's questions that drive growth, and this is what the moon in Gemini is reminding us, is that it's all well and good to have knowledge and wisdom. It's all well and good to have this information, understand the big picture. We also need to understand the fine details. We need to be able to apply it to the microcosm as well, because it doesn't matter what your belief is. We need to understand that the microcosm and macrocosm mirror one another. If we can't apply the big picture or the broad strokes to the fine details, or understand how the fine details play a key role in shaping the big picture, then we're not going to see things as clearly as is ideal. So this is also balancing the student and the teacher. You can't have a teacher if there isn't a student, and Gemini reminds us to stay in touch with that inner student, that curiosity, that desire to know, that desire to question things rather than just take things for gospel. So in some respects, Gemini in religious circles would be considered the heretic. It's the one that questions perceived norms, it questions perceived wisdom, and asks, is there a better way? Is there another way to look at things? So Gemini is about perception, Jupiter is about uniting it or tying it all together into cohesive wholes. So one of the things we need to be honest about is, where do our beliefs limit our perceptions? Where do our beliefs keep our thoughts very narrow and keep us in judgment rather than seeking understanding? So this full moon is an opportunity for us to balance that, the rational and the intuitive sides. Now the ruler of this full moon is Mercury, who's currently retrograde in Sagittarius. So the Sagittarian energy is naturally going to dominate at this time, and with Mercury retrograde here, the rational sides of the mind is taking a bit of a backseat, such as we get more in touch with the intuition, we seek to understand the big picture. So we're not necessarily time for taking any action at this point. This is more for reflecting and being honest with ourselves as to where we are limiting our perceptions through clinging to old beliefs, or seeing where old beliefs, or recognise the end results of the beliefs that we hold on to, and recognise where the belief system needs to be transformed through the light of truth and light of love. Because it's through truth and love that the mind can be transformed, and we can achieve true understanding of the world around us. Because truth is an energy at the end of the day, it's not a concept. We can all, and beliefs are necessarily formulation of these truths. It's our attempt to understand them and put them into words, but they're never going to be entirely complete, because the truth can never be confined by words. So we need to be open to the truth. We need to be open to, if someone says something and it resonates, we then need to try and incorporate that truth into our lives rather than dismissing it or feeling fear about it. So one of the things we need to be looking out for here is that cognitive dissonance, because cognitive dissonance is showing us where there's gaps in our knowledge, gaps in our understanding, gaps in our beliefs, or where there's information that we've got from the past is actually incorrect. So this is a time for us to be honest with ourselves, to question our perceived notions of things, and be open to the possibility that we may be wrong. So humility is a key tool here for us. The full moon is also going to be conjunct, so the sun side of it is going to be conjunct Jupiter as well, because Jupiter rules the Sagittarian side of this balancing act. So the sun conjunct Jupiter is highlighting an opportunity for us to embody new truths, embody new levels of understanding, and be an embodiment of the bigger picture that's trying to unfold around us. But it requires each and every one of us to open our minds up, to allow the old to be let go of, and be honest with ourselves as to, are we living in alignment with the truths? Are we just preaching them without embodying them? It's time to allow the student, because quite often as we get older, for some of us, become less and less open to new insights because we achieve a certain level of comfort. But the thing is, both Gemini and Sagittarius are mutable signs. They deal with change naturally, and they deal with the fact that change is a true constant. Nothing is ever static. Everything is constantly changing around us. Some things are changing too slowly for us to see with the naked eye as it's happening. If we look back over time, we see how things have changed and evolved. So one of the things we need to be aware of is also, where do we have a resistance to change? Where do we have a resistance to new insights? And where's our mind closed down? Where are we too invested in a belief or a way of thinking to appreciate a new truth coming to us? So if we feel threatened by the truth, then that's a big problem, because the mind must always be open and embrace change in order for the truth to evolve, and our understanding of the truth to evolve. Because the minute we stop embracing new perceptions and new notions of the truth, the mind starts to stagnate, and we're moving more towards dying now rather than living. So for us to constantly be living our lives, the mind must always be renewed. If we do not renew the mind, we stay stuck at a certain level of consciousness or a certain level of understanding, and we don't move beyond it, and we keep ourselves in a mental prison. So this is, the full moon asks us to be honest with ourselves about, where do we cling to beliefs for comfort, and where do we cling to old thinking patterns for comfort, rather than being open to perceptions and experiences that challenge our assumptions, challenge our current understanding, and ask us to move beyond our current level of awareness and embrace a more inclusive worldview that allows new truths to come in. Because it's a bit like climbing a mountain, if you like. If you don't keep taking one step in front of the other, you stay stuck at one level of awareness, and the extent that you can see around you is limited. If, however, we keep climbing, keep taking one step in front of the other, have the faith to embrace new truths or new levels of perception, we start to see things at a higher and higher level, and we start to see more and more of the big picture. But it starts with having that willingness to embrace change and willingness to take those steps necessary to move forward and break free of stagnation, and that we'd be open to new truths, we'd be open to the possibility that our current level of understanding is incorrect or is incomplete, and through doing this we can grow, we can transform, and our minds become our greatest allies rather than our greatest limitations, because the mind is an incredibly powerful tool, and this particular full moon highlights this very clearly. But the mind must always be open to new insights. It must always be open to the possibility that our current level of perception is either incomplete or incorrect, and we then must have the courage to make changes, as uncomfortable as they may be, in order to embrace a higher level of truth and to live, be an embodiment of the truth. Because doesn't matter how much we preach truth, if we don't embody it, then we're just engaging in hypocrisy at the end of the day. Let's put it bluntly. But if we have the courage to be open to the potential that we don't have a complete understanding yet, and allow the new insights to come in, and find a way to integrate them, and recognise where beliefs or thought patterns may need to be expelled altogether because they're brought over from an old chapter of life that no longer resonates with who we are. And by opening the minds and allowing old chapters to close, we open new chapters based in truth, based in understanding, and based in seeking to communicate consciously with one another the truths that we understand. And through sharing these truths, we can come to greater consensus and more holistic understanding of the wider whole, because no two people see things exactly the same way. And it's this sharing of understanding, having these conversations that share our different understanding, share our different knowledge, that we can push our minds to a greater limit, and we can expand our mind's level of awareness way beyond its current limits. So I hope this useful guide for the full moon. I hope it brings you much illumination into the workings of your own mind, and may bring awareness of where things need to be let go of. But equally, may it help you understand the truths of who you are better, and may it help to illuminate where the mind can be open to a greater extent, so that we can grow, we can evolve, we can transform, and we can then be an embodiment of the truth so people around us naturally benefit. But it requires that we be honest with ourselves first, rather than demanding that of other people, because if we're not prepared to do the work ourselves, how can we realistically expect other people to do it? So may the full moon in Gemini bring you much illumination, new insights into your life, and may expand your mind way beyond its current level. So take care, and may this be a brand new opening for you for a higher level of awareness and a greater understanding of how to bring logic and intuition together, so that the mind is operating its highest potential rather than stuck at a lower level due to limiting beliefs or limited thoughts. So take care, and may be blessed by the illumination of the full moon.